Bow Path of the Teal Lotus is a beautiful, hand-drawn metroidvania that focuses on its platforming mechanics and lore. This title has a lot here to like, but there are some areas that could really use an update. Hello, it's the Dove here to give you my thoughts and review on Bow Path of the Teal Lotus by Squid Shock Studios. Let's get this out of the way. I did enjoy this game. I do have some critiques and criticisms, and sometimes those issues just make the game, well, frustrating. But there is still a lot to enjoy here. This Kickstarter campaign turned into a huge release for Squid Shock's opening salvo. Luckily for interested gamers, Bow Path of the Teal Lotus is releasing on all major consoles and PC. Now let's get to the story. You play as a fox named Bow who uses their magic earring to transform into multiple relics and weapons that you use throughout the game. Bow is dropped from the heavens at the start of the game, and you go through the mythical journey to play a key role in some mysterious ancient ritual that you slowly reveal while you play. This hand-drawn metroidvania title uses Japanese folklore to inspire the beautiful world that was created. The game is filled with a lot of life and a lot of NPCs, which is a nice feature for a metroidvania you don't see often enough. Yes, some games will have the occasional NPC here and there giving you a weapons upgrade or directing you, but in Bow Path of the Teal Lotus, there is a centralized town that you can upgrade. You are able to create fast travel and save points in the town to make the game just a little bit easier. The gameplay is really focused on platforming. There is plenty of combat and enemies throughout the world they created, but overall, you're trying to solve platforming problems and puzzles. Now, I am a reawakened Metroidvania fan, but one part of the genre I do not care for is when a game has ultra focus on some of the platforming mechanics. When it works, it adds a lot to the game in terms of challenge and exhilaration, but when it's not done properly or the mechanics themselves are inconsistent, then the game becomes more of a grueling, frustrating mess. Unfortunately, there were parts of Bow Path of the Teal Lotus that really felt a lot more like an effort and frustration than a good platformer. Now, it wasn't every single level or every boss battle, but there were a few where if you didn't have perfect timing or the game just for some reason thought you were pressing slightly down and left instead of the other way, then you would have a complete reset and fall to your death. One core mechanic to Bow is when you hit an object, you are able to then reset your jump status, and essentially you could sit there indefinitely hitting an object and jumping. But sometimes your character's animation looks like it hits the exact object, but you are not able to continue moving or jumping. It doesn't reset your jump at all. One key level where you're trying to platform while outrunning a giant tidal wave proved to be incredibly frustrating when the game continued to just not activate on certain areas, causing me to reset the same damn sequence over and over and over. And I am a fan of Souls-like series, but this inconsistency and how the platforming worked just made me not want to play the game. It happened throughout the game, not just the part with the added pressure of the deadly wave. And each time it happened, the frustration grew. If you hit an object and you don't get any reset, and you have to start the whole thing over, it simply makes the game more grueling than challenging. But when the mechanics actually worked, it was a lot of fun to figure out the challenging puzzles. It definitely took a lot of rhythm and timing to get things right. And when it does, there is a lot of entertainment to be had here. Along with that platforming, there are a lot of puzzles that involve a little bit of planning and geometry, but nothing that should stump a savvy gamer like yourself. These types of puzzles are the ones I really enjoyed and made the game worth some of the frustrating parts. Trying to figure out the right angle or how to hit something and then simultaneously bat it with your aluminum bamboo earring bat? I don't know what the hell it is. Well, that was quite intriguing. And simply put, the game shines when things work. Grappling through objects, mid-air jumps and dashes, enemies flying in to mess up your rhythm, all the while you are juggling it all, made the game extremely challenging and rewarding at the same time. Some of the platforming puzzles shined with their difficulty and their need for multiple techniques to solve it. As long as there was no timer or impending doom behind you, it is possible to work through some of the unpolished parts of the game. The interesting mechanics with the jump and the attack actually made for some cool combat as well as fun platforming. You feel like an acrobatic ninja, much like Daredevil. I did not hate the fact that you could reset your jump while you're attacking at all. I think it added a lot to every battle you had with each boss. It also allowed gamers who had good timing to take down enemies rather quickly. There's also a good assortment of special abilities, or dolls in the case of Bow Path of the Teal Lotus. You find these dolls throughout your journey and equip them, and they all have different abilities that link to your special attack. This was another aspect of the game I really enjoyed. I like giving the player the ability to select how they are going to make the game their own. But the biggest issue I had was on a couple boss battles, one in particular with Hashihime. The top of the screen would cut off even though your character would jump above the enemy. I personally need to see my character at all times during a battle, especially when there's a bunch of attacks coming my way and timing is extremely vital. There's nothing like completely losing sight of where your character is and not knowing where he's going to fall or how to counter, or when to counter for that matter. I don't know if they were trying to make the game feel more retro in that regard, or really what their overall idea was to cut off the field of view, but I did not like that at all. I love a good retro feel, but there are a few areas in the retro world that do not need to be revived, and not knowing where your character is while you're in a boss battle is pretty high on that list. This by no means broke the game, but it really just made a boss battle frustrating rather than challenging, which is what most of us want. It was another part of the game that just really felt undone. Despite my issues with the game, there are plenty of quality ideas in platforming, battles, and the like to enjoy in Bow Path of the Teal Lotus. It just at times felt like the game was geared towards speedrunners or people who have played through the game once before. At least in the case of the speedrunning, the game's creator never said it out loud, but in a few different interviews, he points out that he will be very interested to see what speedrunners do with the game.
Really are trying to encourage the player to stay in the air.
Yeah.
Eventually, like, really good players are like almost never going to be on the floor.
Yeah.
That's kind of
As
our
we
hope.
can see.
Yeah, that's kind of our hope. Like when speedrunners get a hold of this, that like they do like don't touch the floor's lava challenges.
I can imagine, what they're gonna do, right?
It was just a comment that the creator Christopher Stair said a few times, and in my playthroughs, it just felt like a few levels were channeling the speedrunner mentality. But let's get back to where this game shined. It is one of the few indie-developed metroidvanias that has a good task or quest tracker. Many games rely on the player remembering nearly everything said to them in dialogue, and if you're ever impatient like me, you might accidentally skip through any directions because you hit a button during the explanation. Bow Path of the Teal Lotus did a great job with their menus, user interfaces, and quest tracking. There were no giant markers to show you where to go, but most of the info you need is in the quest tracking tab. The game's music is also top of the line. There is no annoying, underdone background music that sounds distorted. It's a wonderful mixture of Japanese theme music that makes traveling through this world very enjoyable. And it's also mixed with a nice amount of subtle ambient sound. Bow Path of the Teal Lotus is also hitting that short and sweet spot for runtime, with some finishing the main game in 6 hours, but if you suck horribly like me, it will be closer to double that. I actually enjoy that the game is brief. It seems to be geared towards multiple run-throughs if you enjoyed your first adventure. And with the multiple attacks, specials, and moves, the appeal is definitely there for gamers to redo their journey. I may not love everything about this title, but there is a lot of appeal here, especially for big fans of platforming. The setting is surreal at times with both the hand-drawn artwork and the soothing Japanese music. While there are some issues that could use some ironing out, overall, this indie title by Squid Shock Studios is a solid game with a $20 opening price tag. There have been a number of indie-developed Metroidvanias this year, and if you enjoy the platforming variety, then Bow Path of the Teal Lotus might be the one you're looking for. Yeah, there are some issues here and there, but they are issues you can work through, and I feel like an update around the corner could really fix most of my issues with the game. Despite some of its flaws, this is an enjoyable game, and it's available on the PlayStation, the Xbox Series, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Folks, if you enjoyed this, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you'd like more content like this. For even more content, go to twohatsandabeard.com or check out our YouTube page. Until next time, this is the Dove.